Today we're going to talk about the Okuma. They were Gural from the east. I'm going to tell you who they were, why they were stupid, and how it got them killed. Let's get into it. Hello everyone, welcome to the Maple Table. My name's Nathaniel. This is a channel where we discuss role-playing games, so if that's something you're interested in, I'd love to have you hit that subscribe button and that bell notification so that you know when my content is available. Channel viewership has been increasing and the subscriber count for the channel has been increasing as well. Thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed, and for those of you who I haven't won over yet, but who are still watching, I encourage you to join me at the table. The Okuma were a tribe of Gural who lived in Southeast Asia, the northern parts of India, and as far east as Japan. The Okuma, in their bear forms, would have represented the sun bear, the moon bear, and as well as giant pandas. One thing that would have set them apart from the rest of their Gural brethren would be patches of bright colored fur that would dot their fur pattern landscape, as it were. This was to represent that they also had a special relationship with Helios, the sun god. The Okuma, as a tribe, they were open-minded to say the least. And this is going back quite a few years into the early days of Asian history. The Okuma's open-mindedness, not only for humans, but for that of their animal kin as well. Their open-mindedness made sure that they were quite diverse around their areas and home territories. The Okuma, being chosen of Helios, they were incredibly gifted when it came to seeking out corruption. This is one of the things that they were known for, being ferocious panda bear warriors who rooted out corruption. Because they were so good at what they did, this actually got them in trouble with a tribe of ancient vampires, Kuei-jin. The Kuei-jin were a corrupted line from a special group called the Wanjian. This translates to 10,000 heroes. Essentially how the story goes when talking about the Wanjian. They were a group who were formed shortly after the creation of many of the were creatures, and they were guiding humanity. And they were doing a great job until, you know how the saying goes, absolute power corrupts absolutely. They were so powerful and they were uncontested that some of their descendants, the Kuei-jin, ended up getting corrupted down the line and becoming vampires. The Wanjian are also mentioned in werewolf history as well. To hear the werewolves tell it, the Wanjian were corrupted by were-spiders, early versions of the Ananasi. And the Wanjian, in the werewolf story, were corrupted into using elemental energies for their own gain. The werewolves will tell you over the centuries that the were-spiders, or the Ananasi, corrupted the 10,000 immortals, teaching them to feed off the blood of others. And groups that would have still been around at this point, like the Camazotz, the Gronder, or the Apis, who would be able to see through this deception, well, the Wanjian, they didn't like that. And they sowed seeds of dissent among the Fera of the West as well. The War of Rage and the War of Shame were two events on two different continents that happened at the near exact same time. Unfortunately, the War of Rage destroyed 3 races of Fera: the Camazotz, the Gronder, and the Apis. Now, how does this relate to the Okuma? Basically, in the early days of the Beast Courts, before they were called Beast Courts, there was a loose collection of tribes for the shapeshifters, and they were trying to figure things out. They had a council of sorts. In the early days, it was called Jiang-ren. I should probably mention, as you can tell by my appearance, I am not a native Cantonese or Mandarin speaker. If I am butchering any of these pronunciations, I deeply apologize. As I said, the Okuma were very good at cleaning out corruption, which led them into conflict with the Kuei-jin. The Kuei-jin were not just your average group of vampire. They were very smart. And they played on all of the Fera who were in this early days of the Beast Courts, the Jiang-ren. They were just as fractured as the Guru tribes of the West. Potentially even more so, if you can believe that. After many years and decades of planning, what the Kuei-jin did is they pitted the different tribes against each other, and everybody started attacking each other, trying to get retribution, trying to settle old grudges. It was just not a pretty sight. It was very, very terrible, and this was called the War of Shame. So there you go, War of Shame started by vampires. So with all the tribes, tensions running high and the clans attacking each other trying to settle these wrongs, the Okuma did not want to play this game. What the Okuma decided, instead of playing into this game of war, they decided going into the mountains was the best course of action for them and just going to sleep. They didn't want to participate. Several tribes were of course very put out by this, and eventually all of the clans or the different tribes, along with the Kuei-jin, targeted the Okuma and killed every single one of them. Had the Okuma joined into the battle, as they were very fierce warriors, maybe things would be different. Maybe they'd still be around. Who's to say? Once all the tribes wised up and realized what was happening, they settled their differences and put down their weapons and they ended the War of Shame. However, the damage had already been done. The Okuma were no more. And from this point on, the Henjei-Yokai, or the Beast Courts, were formed to prevent this very thing from happening again. If you're going to have a game set in feudal Asia, it would definitely make sense that you could have a Okuma character. The Okuma, in their human forms, would definitely have been physically large people. Moon bears and pandas are very, very strong. For example, someone who had more of the panda lineage, well, they would put on fat and muscle in probably equal amounts. So they would be large, very strong people. And someone from the moon bear lineage would probably be a lot more stockier than, say, someone from the sun bear lineage. And as I mentioned before, because they were so spread out and their tribal nature was so diverse, you could have anyone from the backgrounds of the Indias, Asia, or Japan. And also to mention, because of their special connection to Helios, not only could they have the gifts and rights that came from, obviously, the Gural lineage, but they were also able to take special gifts and special rights that would normally be available only to those who were in Helios's favor, Corax being one of them. If you're interested in learning more about the Corax, I'll have a link in the description for you about them, and also some gifts from the Makole. In modern times, the Okuma don't exist as a particular tribe. However, their kinfolk species do exist. We do still have moon bears and sun bears and pandas. It should go without saying that the moon bears, the sun bears, and the pandas, they're all on the endangered species list, so there isn't a lot of them left. But because they are still around, this does give hope that one day the Okuma might return. And who knows, maybe they'll come back in your game. Up on the screen now I'll have a playlist of the other changing breed tribes that I have covered, as well as a recommendation from YouTube on something it thinks you might like. If you enjoyed today's video, please hit that like button and that subscribe button, as I would really like to grow the channel and continue making quality content for all of you. My name's Nathaniel. You've been watching The Maple Table. Thanks for stopping by, everyone.